The police cruiser cut sharply across the lane, forcing the out-of-state SUV tight against the guardrail. Officer Travis Vickers yanked Maya Williams's handbag from the vehicle. Sergeant Dean Mercer immediately moved to block her left side, closing off her only way out. "Put the bag back in my vehicle," Maya said, stepping forward. Vickers held the bag up. "You don't get to give orders here. I'm giving you a chance to make the right decision," Maya said, looking directly into his eyes. Vickers pulled hard. The inner stitching tore apart, and her belongings scattered across the hood. A black metal device slipped out through the tear and slid to a stop on the hood. Officer Noah Ellis stepped closer, read the words on the device, and backed away. Vickers's smile disappeared. Mercer stopped moving, his attention immediately fixed on Maya. All three officers tightened their formation around her. For several seconds, no one spoke. Noah looked at the device again. The lettering was small but clear. U.S. Government property. Restricted access. A serial number was engraved beneath the warning. There was no agency name, photograph, badge, or title that explained why Maya had been carrying it. "Do not attempt to activate that device," Maya said. Mercer's hand moved toward the baton clipped to his belt. He did not remove it, but the gesture was deliberate. "Who issued it?" he asked. Maya remained still. "That information is not relevant to this stop." Vickers looked from the device to her. "What does it access?" "You are not authorized to use it." Mercer turned to Vickers and pulled him a few steps away. Their voices dropped, but Maya could still hear parts of the exchange. "If this is connected to something federal, keep your voice down. Pike needs to know." Mercer glanced back at Maya. "She doesn't leave yet." Maya heard enough. Their concern was no longer about her driving. The device had changed the direction of the encounter, but their reaction told her more than the questions did. They were worried that her presence in Belhaven might be connected to something they did not want examined. Maya shifted her attention to the red indicator on Noah's body camera. "Officer Vickers, state the reason you stopped my vehicle." Vickers turned toward her. "Unsafe lane movement. Be specific." "You drifted out of your lane." "Which direction?" "To the right." Maya looked at Mercer. The sergeant answered before she asked him anything. "You crossed the shoulder line." Vickers glanced toward Mercer. Noah lowered his eyes. Maya noticed both reactions. "Officer Vickers says I drifted to the right. You say I crossed the shoulder line. Are you describing the same event?" Mercer stepped closer. "We're not holding a court hearing on the side of the road. You're explaining the legal basis for stopping me. That should not require two different descriptions." Vickers gave her a hard look. "What are you? Some kind of lawyer?" "My occupation has nothing to do with the reason you stopped me. I asked you a question." "So did I." Mercer watched her carefully. Maya was not arguing about every accusation. She was asking narrow questions and waiting for specific answers. Each answer committed them to a version of events. Vickers turned toward the open driver's door and looked inside the SUV. Then he said, "I smell marijuana." Noah looked up immediately. Maya kept her attention on Vickers. "When did you first smell it?" "When I came to your window." "During your first contact with me?" "Yes." "And you said that at the time?" Vickers paused before answering. "Yes." Maya looked toward Noah's body camera. "Then the recording will confirm that." Noah said nothing. Mercer's eyes moved toward him. Vickers leaned into the SUV and opened the center console. "Officer Vickers, I do not consent to any further search of my vehicle. You've got restricted government property hidden inside your bag. That does not give you automatic authority to search the rest of my property. You don't decide what we can search." Maya looked at the torn handbag on the hood. "You have already searched property without my consent." Vickers turned toward her. "Watch your tone." "My tone is not the issue." Mercer stepped between them before Vickers could answer. "Miss Williams, this can still be handled without making it more complicated. Tell us which agency issued that device and explain why you have it." Maya studied him for a moment. "Am I free to leave?" Mercer did not answer. "Am I being detained?" "We're still investigating." "That does not answer my question." Vickers shook his head. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Maya kept her voice controlled. "I'm asking whether I am legally free to leave." Again, Mercer refused to answer. Maya looked at Noah. The younger officer had moved slightly away from Vickers, but he still remained between Maya and the open stretch of shoulder. He appeared uncomfortable, yet he made no attempt to intervene. Mercer turned away and spoke quietly to Vickers. "We need to know what she knows before she makes a call." Vickers nodded. Maya heard every word. She looked at the police cruiser, then at her SUV, then at the guardrail beside her. Their vehicles and positions had closed every practical route away from the scene. Her phone was still inside the SUV. Her handbag had been torn open. The officers were now more interested in the government device than in the traffic violation they could not describe consistently. Mercer returned to Maya. "Who knows you're in Belhaven?" That question was different from the others. Maya did not answer immediately. Vickers noticed. "He asked you a question." "I heard him." "Then answer." Maya looked at Mercer. "Why does it matter who knows I'm here?" Mercer's expression remained controlled. "It's part of the investigation." "What investigation?" "The one you're standing in." Maya said nothing. The wording confirmed what she had begun to suspect. They were no longer trying to justify the stop. They were trying to determine how isolated she was. Mercer looked at Noah. "Stay with her." Then he turned to Vickers and lowered his voice, but not enough to keep Maya from hearing. "She's not leaving until we know what she knows." Mercer stepped toward the driver's side of the SUV and looked through the open door. "Where's your phone?" Maya did not move. Inside the vehicle, Vickers reached in before she could say anything else. He picked up the phone from the center console and held it in one hand. "That stays with us for now." "On what legal basis?" "Evidence preservation." "Evidence of what?" Vickers ignored the question and slipped the phone into a clear property pouch from his cruiser. Maya watched him seal it. "Make sure the time is recorded." Mercer gave her a measured look. "You seem very concerned about records." "I'm concerned about accuracy." If you admire Maya's calm courage and her refusal to let anyone distort the truth, please like this video. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, your city, state, or country, because someone near you may be following Maya's story at the same time. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next powerful stories. He turned to Noah. "Run the vehicle identification number again. Verify the rental company and registration." Noah hesitated. "I already ran the plate." I said, "Run the vehicle." Noah walked toward the front of the SUV and began reading the identification information through the windshield. Mercer shifted his position so Maya remained between the guardrail and the two vehicles. He did not touch her. He did not need to. Vickers stood near the rear passenger door, while Mercer remained close enough to block her path toward the roadway. Maya watched both men carefully. Vickers opened the trunk of the patrol cruiser. For only a moment, Mercer moved between Maya and the rear of the cruiser. When he stepped aside again, Vickers was holding a sealed evidence envelope. Maya could not see the label clearly from where she stood. Vickers walked behind the SUV and opened the rear cargo door. "What are you doing?" Maya asked. "Continuing the search. I have already stated that I do not consent." "You've stated a lot of things." Mercer looked toward Noah. "Stay on the vehicle." "Check." Noah kept his eyes toward the windshield, but his shoulders had gone rigid. Vickers leaned into the cargo area. A few seconds later, he stepped back and raised his voice. "Sergeant, you need to see this." Mercer walked toward him. Maya stayed where she was. Vickers reached into the SUV again and pulled out the same evidence envelope. This time, he held it where everyone could see. Inside was a thick stack of cash. Mercer examined the envelope. "How much?" "Looks like 18,000. Maya looked at the seal. The envelope already carried an evidence label. That detail mattered more than the money. "Who discovered it?" she asked. Vickers looked at her. "I did." "Who touched it first?" "I did." Mercer frowned. "What difference does that make?" Maya ignored him. Officer Vickers read the evidence seal number aloud. Vickers stared at her. "Why?" "Because you're claiming you found that envelope in my vehicle. If it becomes evidence in a criminal case, the seal number should be part of the record." Mercer glanced at Noah's body camera. For a second, nobody spoke. Then Mercer said, "Read it." Vickers looked down at the label and slowly read the full seal number. Maya listened without interruption. When he finished, she said, "Thank you." Vickers's expression tightened. You think you're being clever? No. I think evidence should be identifiable. Mercer studied the envelope again. You want to explain why this was in your vehicle? It wasn't. Vickers gave a short laugh. I just pulled it out of your cargo area. You pulled an evidence envelope out of my cargo area. That does not establish how it got there. You're accusing an officer of planting evidence? I haven't accused anyone of anything. Mercer stepped closer. Then explain the money. I can't explain property that does not belong to me. Vickers held up the envelope. $18,000 appears in your vehicle, and suddenly you know nothing about it. Maya looked directly at him. You said you smelled marijuana. Then you found nothing. You tore open my handbag and discovered restricted government property. Now an evidence envelope containing cash appears in my vehicle. Mercer interrupted. Careful. With what? With the implication you're making. I'm describing the sequence. Noah had stopped pretending to study the vehicle information. He was watching Vickers now. Mercer noticed. Noah, finish the check. Noah turned back toward the windshield. Mercer lowered his voice. Miss Williams, this money may be connected to an active municipal evidence file. If that's true, your situation just became much more serious. Maya's expression did not change. Then, you should be able to identify when that envelope entered police custody, Vickers said. Maybe you stole it. From where? That's what we're going to find out. Mercer took the envelope from Vickers and examined the label again. There may also be an issue of bribery. Maya looked at him. Who did I offer money to? You've been trying to influence this stop from the beginning. By asking questions? By telling officers what they can and can't do. That isn't bribery. Mercer's tone hardened. You're carrying restricted government equipment you refuse to identify. We found a large amount of cash in your vehicle. You've interfered with a lawful investigation, and you've repeatedly refused to cooperate. I provided my license, rental documents, and insurance. I complied when ordered out of the vehicle. I stated that I did not consent to searches. None of that is obstruction. Vickers stepped closer. You really do think you can talk your way out of anything? Maya looked at the sealed cash envelope in Mercer's hand. No. I think you should be very careful about what you decide to write next. Mercer's face changed slightly. He had understood the warning. Not because Maya had threatened him, but because she had already made them commit to several specific claims. The reason for the stop, the marijuana odor, the discovery of the cash, the seal number. Now, Mercer had to decide how many of those claims he was willing to place into an official report. He looked at Vickers. Bag the device separately. Bag the purse. Keep the cash in its current envelope. Then he turned to Maya. You're coming to the Belhaven Police Department while we sort this out. Am I under arrest? You're being detained pending further investigation. On suspicion of what? Mercer paused. Possession of suspected stolen evidence, possible bribery, and obstruction. Maya held his gaze. You went from an alleged lane violation to stolen evidence and bribery in less than half an hour. Mercer did not answer. Vickers closed the rear cargo door of the SUV. Maya looked once at her phone inside the clear property pouch, then at the torn handbag now being sealed by Noah. Noah avoided her eyes. Mercer opened the rear door of the patrol cruiser. We'll continue this at the station. Maya did not resist. Before getting in, she looked at the evidence envelope one more time. The seal number had already been spoken aloud. That was enough for now. The Belhaven Police Department was quiet when Maya was led through the side entrance. Mercer walked ahead, while Vickers stayed behind her. Noah followed carrying the sealed handbag, the government device, and the property pouch containing Maya's phone. No one explained where they were taking her. Mercer opened a windowless interview room and motioned toward the chair across from a metal table. Have a seat. Maya sat without argument. Vickers remained near the door while Mercer placed a folder on the table. He unclipped his baton and set it beside the folder, close enough for Maya to see it clearly. She looked at the baton once, then at Mercer. Am I being recorded? Yes. Audio and video? Mercer hesitated. Yes. Good. Vickers leaned against the wall. You really like records. I like accurate ones. Mercer opened the folder and removed a printed form. He turned it toward her and placed a pen beside it. This is a consent form. allowing us to verify the government property and the cash recovered from your vehicle. Sign it, and we can move this along." Maya began reading. Mercer waited. Vickers did not. "It's a standard form." Maya continued reading. Several paragraphs described voluntary cooperation, evidence verification, and permission to examine seized property. Near the bottom, one sentence changed the meaning of the entire document. She read it again before looking at Mercer. "This says I acknowledge knowing possession of the cash recovered from my vehicle." Mercer remained still. Vickers pushed away from the wall. "The money was in your SUV. That is your allegation. This form asks me to adopt it as fact. It's just paperwork." "No, it's an admission." Mercer folded his hands. "It establishes what was found. It establishes that I knew the money was there. You're refusing to cooperate again." Maya slid the document back toward him. "I'm refusing to sign a statement that is false." Vickers stepped closer. "Most people would be trying to help themselves right now." Maya looked at him. "Most people probably don't read everything you put in front of them." Mercer's expression tightened. "That sounds like an accusation." "It's an observation." The door opened before Mercer could answer. A man in his late 50s entered, wearing a pressed uniform with chief's insignia. His manner was controlled, and unlike Vickers, he did not attempt to dominate the room immediately. "Miss Williams, I'm Chief Raymond Pike." Maya nodded once. "Chief." Pike sat beside Mercer. "I've reviewed what happened on County Route 17. I think everyone would benefit from lowering the temperature. Then release me and return my property." Pike gave a restrained smile. "Unfortunately, we've moved beyond a traffic matter. Because $18,000 from a police evidence envelope appeared in my rental vehicle." Vickers started to speak, but Pike raised one hand. "I'm not here to argue with you. Then what are you here to do?" "Find a reasonable solution." Pike opened another folder. "If you cooperate with us, I'm prepared to review the traffic citation, the cash allegation, and any possible obstruction issue. If everything checks out, you could be on your way, without this becoming more complicated than it needs to be." "What do you want?" "Information." "About the cash?" "About everything." His eyes shifted toward the evidence bag containing the black device. Maya noticed. Pike continued. "We need to determine who issued that device, what it accesses, and why you were carrying it through Bellhaven. And if I tell you, we verify your explanation. And then, you sign an agreement confirming that the matter has been resolved, and that neither side will make unnecessary public statements while the review is completed." Maya looked at him for several seconds. "You want a confidentiality agreement. I want everyone protected from unnecessary damage. You also want to keep the device. Temporarily. You don't care about the cash." Pike's expression remained polite. "I care about every piece of evidence." "No. You care about that device." Silence settled over the room. Vickers looked toward Pike. Mercer watched Maya. Pike finally said, "Why would I care more about one piece of property than another?" Maya leaned back slightly. "I haven't reviewed the municipal accounts." Pike answered immediately. "Which accounts?" The question came too quickly. Maya said nothing. Pike realized it a moment later. His expression changed only slightly, but Mercer noticed. "What municipal accounts?" Pike asked again. "I didn't identify any. You brought them up." "I said I hadn't reviewed them." Vickers frowned. "What kind of game is this?" Maya kept her attention on Pike. "Chief, you asked what I know. I'm learning that your questions are more useful than your answers." Pike closed the folder. Mercer turned toward the door. "Bring Alice in." Noah entered a few minutes later. He stopped when he saw Maya and avoided looking directly at her. Mercer remained seated. "Officer Ellis, during the roadside detention, did Miss Williams attempt to conceal the government device?" Noah swallowed. "Yes." Maya looked at him. Mercer continued. "Did she move toward Officer Vickers after the cash was recovered?" "Yes." Vickers folded his arms. Maya showed no visible reaction. She waited until Mercer finished writing. Then she spoke. "Officer Ellis, did you personally see me touch the envelope containing the cash?" Noah looked at Mercer. "Answer her," Pike said. "No." "Did you see me place it anywhere in the SUV?" "No." "Did you hear me offer money to Officer Vickers, Sergeant Mercer, or anyone else?" Noah hesitated longer this time. No. Did I ever ask anyone to make the stop disappear in exchange for money? No. Mercer closed his notebook. That's enough. Maya kept looking at Noah. He still would not meet her eyes. Pike stood. We're done for now. Maya looked at the unsigned consent form. You came in, offering a simple solution. Now, you have a witness, saying he never saw me touch the money, and never heard me offer a bribe. Pike stopped at the door. That doesn't mean the money wasn't in your vehicle. No. It means your story is becoming harder to write. Pike stepped into the hallway. Mercer followed. The door remained open just long enough for Maya to hear Pike speak in a low voice. Call Whitmore. Maya remained in the interview room while Mercer prepared the affidavit. Through the closed door, she could hear voices moving between offices, phones ringing, and short conversations that stopped whenever someone passed the room. No one came back for nearly 20 minutes. When Mercer finally entered, he carried several printed pages and a yellow legal pad. Vickers followed him, but Chief Pike was absent. Mercer sat down and placed the papers in front of Maya. We're moving forward with formal charges. Maya did not reach for the documents. Which charges? Possession of suspected stolen evidence funds, attempted bribery, obstruction, and interference with official duties. Who is the alleged victim of the bribery? Mercer's expression tightened. That will be addressed in the affidavit. Which officer did I supposedly attempt to bribe? You're not conducting the interview. I'm asking what crime you believe occurred. Mercer pushed the affidavit toward her. Read it. Maya did. The document described the stop as though the disputed facts had already been established. It claimed that Vickers initiated the detention after observing unsafe lane movement. It stated that he detected the odor of marijuana and later discovered cash inside the SUV. It also described Maya's questions and refusal to identify the black device as interference with investigative procedures. The bribery language was less direct. It suggested that Maya had attempted to influence the officers by using her knowledge of legal procedures and by implying consequences if they continued the search. Maya looked up. You turned a legal warning into attempted bribery. Mercer folded his arms. That's your interpretation. You don't identify any offer of money, property, or benefit. The total circumstances matter. Officer Ellis already said he never heard me offer anything. This isn't about one statement. Maya looked back at the affidavit. Who approved continued detention? Mercer waited a moment before answering. Judge Arthur Whitmore. How long did he have this affidavit before he approved it? That's not relevant. It was still being prepared after Chief Pike left this room. Mercer said nothing. Maya looked at the time printed near the bottom of the judicial authorization, then at the time listed on the affidavit. The difference was small, too small for comfort. You sent this to Judge Whitmore before the supporting statement was complete. No. Then how did he review the final version before it existed? Vickers stepped forward. You need to stop acting like you're running this place. Maya ignored him and kept her attention on Mercer. Did Judge Whitmore read the complete affidavit before authorizing further detention? Yes. Put that in the record. Mercer stared at her. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to make arguments later. That wasn't an argument. Mercer gathered the papers. We're done with that issue. Maya leaned back. Then I have another one. Mercer did not respond. The $18,000? What about it? You said it may be stolen evidence from Belhaven. That's under investigation. I want written confirmation that the envelope remained under Belhaven evidence control before Officer Vickers says he found it in my vehicle. Vickers laughed. You want us to prove our own evidence is ours? I want you to confirm your own allegation. Mercer's eyes narrowed. Maya continued. If the money came from your evidence system, there should be a record showing where it was stored, when it was accessed, and by whom. Vickers looked toward Mercer. Mercer answered carefully. The envelope was secure. Before the traffic stop? Yes. Then write that. The room went quiet. Vickers said, Why would we do that? Because your entire theory depends on the money being legitimate Belhaven evidence that somehow appeared in my SUV. If you believe that, confirming its custody should be simple. Mercer stood. I'll speak with the chief. He returned several minutes later carrying a short typed statement. It said the cash envelope had remained in authorized Belhaven evidence control until its recovery from Maya's vehicle, and that no known unauthorized removal had occurred before the roadside search. Mercer signed it. He placed it in front of Maya. There. Satisfied, Maya read every line. Yes. She did not smile. That seemed to bother him more. Later that afternoon, Maya was moved out of the interview room and into formal processing. Her personal property remained held as evidence, including the torn handbag, the black device, and her phone. She was permitted to request legal counsel, but her case was no longer being treated as a traffic matter. Across Belhaven, the public booking entry appeared in the county system. Robert Carter was sitting at his kitchen table when his wife, Denise, turned her laptop toward him. Look at these names. Robert adjusted his reading glasses. The entry concerned an out-of-state woman named Maya Williams. The allegations included suspicious cash, obstruction, and interference with police duties. Robert's attention moved past the charges. Officer Travis Vickers, Sergeant Dean Mercer, Judge Arthur Whitmore. He stopped reading. Denise rose and walked to a small filing cabinet near the dining room. She returned with a thick folder and placed it beside the laptop. Robert looked at her. You still keep all that? I keep everything. She opened the folder. There was a traffic citation, a towing invoice, a seizure notice, and a court order. The documents were years old, but the names were the same. Vickers, Mercer, Whitmore. Robert sat back. That doesn't prove anything. No, Denise said, but it means I'm not ignoring it. He looked again at Maya's booking entry. We said we were done with Belhaven. Denise kept one hand on their file. If it's the same people, then it isn't done. She searched for a number and found the office of Daniel Cross, a Virginia attorney known for handling municipal abuse and civil rights cases. Robert watched her reach for the phone. You really think he'll care about one old file? Denise looked at Maya's case on the screen. Not if it's only one. Daniel Cross arrived at Robert and Denise Carter's house the following morning, carrying a legal pad and a slim document case. Denise had already cleared one end of the kitchen table and arranged their papers in separate stacks. Robert poured coffee into 3 mugs before taking the chair beside her. Daniel looked at the folders. Start with the documents, not the story. Robert raised an eyebrow. You don't want to know what happened? I do. But I want to know what Belhaven wrote down first. Denise pushed the first stack toward him. Daniel read the traffic citation, towing invoice, seizure notice, and court order without interruption. He marked several dates on his legal pad, then opened the public record from Maya Williams's case. The same names appeared: Travis Vickers, Dean Mercer, Arthur Whitmore. Daniel placed the 2 files side by side. One similar case doesn't establish a pattern, he said. Denise nodded. What establishes one? More cases, repeated procedures, financial connections, altered records, or evidence that the same people were using the same method. Robert pointed at the towing invoice. Belhaven Recovery handled our vehicle. Daniel looked at Maya's available booking information. Her rental SUV was also transferred to Belhaven Recovery after processing. Denise folded her hands. Is that enough to start looking? Daniel took a drink of coffee. It's enough to stop calling this coincidence. He began making a list of public record requests. He wanted seizure cases involving Vickers, reports approved by Mercer, towing records connected to Belhaven Recovery Services, and judicial orders signed by Whitmore. He also requested municipal reports showing how much Belhaven collected from enforcement-related revenue. Robert watched him write. How long does all that take? Depends on whether they want to cooperate. And if they don't? Daniel looked at the stack of papers. Then the way they refuse can become useful too. At the Belhaven Police Department, Noah Ellis entered the evidence room using his department credentials. He waited until the door closed behind him before approaching the computer terminal. He searched the seal number Maya had forced Vickers to read aloud on the roadside. The evidence envelope appeared immediately. Noah checked the custody history. Then he stopped. The entry showed the envelope had been checked out under Travis Vickers's credentials after Maya's traffic stop had already begun. Noah read the timestamp again. There was no reasonable way the money could have been inside Maya's SUV before Vickers stopped her. He opened the detailed log. The envelope had originally been stored as evidence from an unrelated municipal case. Vickers accessed it during the same period, when Maya had been standing beside the guardrail, under Mercer's supervision. Noah looked toward the closed evidence room door. He copied the relevant log to an authorized internal review file, then printed one page. He folded it twice and slipped it inside a plain administrative folder. He did not delete his search history. He knew doing so would create another problem. What Noah did not know was that the evidence system also maintained an access report available to supervisory personnel. Across the building, Mercer was already reviewing it. Daniel met Maya later that afternoon in a private attorney consultation room. Her phone remained in Belhaven custody, and the government device was still sealed as evidence. Daniel set the Carter file on the table. Robert and Denise Carter contacted me because they recognized the names in your case. Maya opened the folder. She read the documents carefully. Vickers initiated their stop. Yes. Mercer supervised the seizure? Yes. And Whitmore signed the order? Daniel nodded. Belhaven Recovery handled the vehicle too. Maya returned the documents to the table. How much did they lose? Enough that they stopped fighting before the process was finished. Maya's expression remained controlled, but Daniel noticed that she read the towing invoice a second time. He leaned back. Now I need something from you. What? The truth about that black device. You already know the relevant part. No. I know it's government property and Belhaven is using your refusal to identify it against you. It was lawfully issued. By whom? I can't tell you yet. Daniel exhaled slowly. Maya, they're building criminal allegations around it. I know. You could remove part of their argument by identifying the issuing authority. And tell Pike exactly who needs warning before the relevant records are preserved. Daniel studied her. You think they would destroy evidence? I think their conduct should determine that answer. Not my assumption. That sounds careful enough to get you charged. It may. Daniel lowered his voice. Who exactly are you protecting? Maya looked at the Carter documents. Anyone whose case depends on records Belhaven still controls. Daniel was quiet. Maya continued. If the only way to prove they treated me unlawfully is to reveal who I work for, then we've learned nothing about what happens to people who can't make that revelation. Daniel tapped one finger against the table. You understand that I can't defend a secret I'm not allowed to know. You don't need my title to challenge planted evidence. If it was planted. Maya met his eyes. Then, establish that. Daniel considered the answer before nodding. Fine. We start with the cash. He opened his legal pad. You made Vickers read the seal number. Yes. Why? Because numbers are harder to revise than explanations. Daniel almost smiled. That may be the first thing you've said today that makes my job easier. Back at the police department, Mercer opened Noah's evidence access record again. Chief Pike stood beside his desk. He searched the Williams envelope? Pike asked. Twice. Does he know what the log shows? If he can read a timestamp. Yes. Pike's expression hardened. Bring him in. Mercer shook his head. Not yet. Pike looked at him. Why? Because if Ellis is talking to someone outside this department, removing him tells them we're worried. Mercer turned to his computer and opened a blank internal evidence entry. Pike understood. You want to feed him something. I want to know where the information goes. Mercer began typing. He created a reference to a master seizure ledger stored in an old municipal archive. Then he added one unnecessary detail. The ledger was blue. Pike watched him save the entry. What if Ellis doesn't take the bait? Mercer closed the file. Then, we lose nothing. He looked toward the hallway leading to the evidence room. But if he does, he'll tell us exactly who Maya Williams has on the outside. Noah returned to the evidence system the next morning and found the new reference while checking the same group of seizure files. The entry was brief. Master seizure ledger. Archive copy. Old municipal records building. Blue binder. Noah read it twice. He had never seen the term master seizure ledger in any Belhaven document before, but the entry appeared to connect several categories he had already been reviewing. Towing revenue, cash seizures, vehicle dispositions, and officer case numbers. He copied the reference onto a small sheet of paper and closed the screen. This time he did not print anything. By late afternoon, Daniel Cross was sitting across from Noah in a quiet booth at a roadside diner several miles outside Belhaven. Noah had chosen the location and arrived without his patrol uniform. Daniel kept his voice low. "You're sure this is real? I found it in the department system." "That's not what I asked." Noah looked toward the window. "I don't know what's real anymore." Daniel waited. Noah continued. "The entry says there's a master ledger in the old municipal records building. It's supposed to track seizures and revenue. Who created the entry? I couldn't tell from the screen I saw." Daniel wrote down the location. Noah added, "It says the ledger is blue." Daniel looked up. "Why does the color matter?" "I don't know. I'm telling you exactly what I saw." Daniel closed his notebook. "You understand I can't walk into a municipal building and start opening cabinets." "I know. I'll verify what I can through lawful access." Noah nodded. "Before leaving," Daniel said, "you gave a statement against Maya Williams." Noah's face tightened. "Yes. You also gave her answers that weakened the department's accusations." "I answered the questions I was asked." "That's a careful way to say it." Noah stood. "I'm trying not to get removed before I know what they're doing." Daniel watched him. "That strategy stops working the moment I can't tell whether you're helping me or feeding me something Mercer wants me to find." Noah did not answer. 2 days later, Daniel submitted a formal records request connected to archived seizure materials. The request was denied on procedural grounds, but the response confirmed that older municipal records were stored in a building behind Bellhaven's administrative offices. Daniel went there during public business hours. The front clerk checked his identification and allowed him into a records review area after he explained that he was examining public seizure files. He did not enter restricted rooms or open secured cabinets. For nearly an hour, he reviewed index sheets. There was no master seizure ledger. There was no blue binder listed in the archive inventory. When Daniel asked the clerk whether such a document existed, she looked confused. "We don't maintain anything by that name." "Could it be an internal police record stored here?" "If it's a police record, it shouldn't be here unless it was transferred." "Any blue ledger transferred from Bellhaven Police?" She shook her head. "Not that I know of." Daniel left without arguing. What he did not know was that the municipal building's access system had already recorded his arrival, identification, and departure. By the time he returned to his office, Chief Pike had a copy of the entry log. Mercer stood beside Pike's desk while Pike read Daniel's name. "He took it," Pike said. Mercer nodded. "Ellis passed the information, and Cross came looking." "Exactly." Pike set the paper down. "So now we know Ellis is leaking. We know he's talking to someone connected to Williams. Then suspend him." Mercer shook his head. "Not yet." Pike looked irritated. "Why keep him inside?" "Because he's useful inside." Daniel learned the purpose of the trap the next morning. A statement from Bellhaven's municipal attorney accused him of attempting to obtain restricted internal records based on improperly disclosed police information. The statement stopped short of accusing him of a crime, but it questioned whether Maya's legal team was interfering with an active investigation. Daniel carried the document into the attorney consultation room and placed it in front of Maya. "They knew I went there before I had time to file a second request." Maya read the statement. "Who told you about the ledger?" "Noah." "Exactly what did he say?" "That there was a master seizure ledger in the old municipal records building." "Anything else?" Daniel thought about it. "He said it was blue." Maya looked up. "Blue?" "Yes." "Did you ask the color?" "No." "Did he explain why it mattered?" "No." Maya read Bellhaven's statement again. Daniel leaned forward. "You think Noah set me up?" "I think someone set Noah up." "Based on a color?" "Based on an unnecessary detail." Daniel waited. Maya explained. If Mercer wanted Noah to find a completely invented document, he only needed a title and a location. Adding the color serves no purpose unless he was describing something he already knew existed. Daniel considered that. So, the location was false. Possibly, but the ledger may be real. Yes, that's a thin inference. It is. Daniel nodded slowly. At least you admit it. I'm not calling it evidence. He looked again at the municipal statement. If Mercer planted the entry, he wanted to know where the information would go. And now he knows. To me. And probably to anyone connected to you if you react carelessly. Daniel leaned back. Then Noah is compromised. Maybe. You still trust him? Maya answered, without hesitation. Trust is irrelevant. I need to know what he does next. Daniel studied her. You really don't think like a defendant. Maya folded the municipal statement and returned it to him. I think like someone who wants the next mistake to belong to them. At the Belhaven Police Department, Noah was called into Mercer's office. Mercer handed him a routine assignment sheet and said nothing about the archive, nothing about Daniel, nothing about the records request. That silence disturbed Noah more than an accusation would have. He signed the assignment sheet and turned to leave. Ellis. Noah stopped. Mercer looked down at a stack of reports. You've been working hard lately. Noah waited. That's good. Keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Noah left the office with a tight feeling in his stomach. Chief Pike stepped in from the adjoining room after the door closed. He knows something's wrong, Pike said. Mercer picked up the access report showing Noah's recent system activity. He should. You still want him active? Mercer looked toward the hallway. Yes. For how long? Until he tells us what Williams thinks she knows. Pike was silent for a moment. Then, he nodded. Let him keep talking. Daniel met Maya again the next afternoon, with copies of the municipal statement, several public corporate filings, and the first batch of records Belhaven had released in response to his requests. They gave me towing contracts, payment summaries, and council reports, he said. Nothing that explains the seizure system directly. Maya looked through the documents. Did they give you everything you requested? No. What did they withhold? Internal police communications, detailed evidence logs, and anything they claim is connected to an active investigation. That was predictable. Daniel pushed another file toward her. Belhaven Recovery Services is more interesting. Maya opened it. The company handled most police-related towing in Belhaven. The records showed charges for vehicle removal, storage, administrative processing, and release. Some owners had paid several times the normal towing rate before recovering their vehicles. Who owns it? Maya asked. On paper, a man named Harold Pike. She looked up. Related to Chief Pike, his older brother. Daniel waited for a reaction. Maya returned to the documents. Does the chief appear anywhere in the ownership records? Not directly. Payments? Not yet. Then we have a family connection, not a financial one. Daniel nodded. That's why I didn't call it proof. Maya closed the file. Good. Chief Pike entered the consultation area later that day with Mercer and a municipal attorney. Daniel remained with Maya. Pike placed a written notice on the table. We're providing formal clarification regarding the property seized from your vehicle. Maya looked at the document but did not touch it. Which property? The restricted government device. Daniel picked up the notice first and began reading. Pike sat across from Maya. You've had several opportunities to identify the issuing agency. I've told you the device was lawfully issued. That isn't verification. Then use an authorized verification process. We can't verify something when you refuse to tell us who issued it. Maya looked at Pike for a moment. You're spending a great deal of time on one device. It may be evidence. Of what? That depends on what it accesses. Mercer stepped forward. You're carrying restricted federal property through a municipality where you have no identified federal assignment. That raises legitimate questions. Maya turned toward him. You still haven't established that my work is connected to Belhaven. That's what we're trying to determine. Then you don't have evidence that it is. Pike raised one hand to end the exchange. We're giving you another opportunity to cooperate voluntarily. Maya looked at Daniel, then back at Pike. I haven't reviewed the Belhaven recovery accounts. Pike's expression remained still. Mercer did not. His eyes moved toward the chief before returning to Maya. Pike said, Why would you review a towing company's accounts? I didn't say I had. Then why mention Belhaven recovery? Maya did not answer. Pike leaned forward slightly. What exactly have you been told about that company? Nothing I'm required to discuss with you. Daniel glanced at Maya but stayed silent. Mercer crossed his arms. You're making unsupported implications again. Maya looked at him. I mentioned a company connected to this department. You supplied that connection, Sergeant. Mercer stopped speaking. Pike stood. This conversation is finished. He collected his copy of the notice and walked out with Mercer. Daniel waited until the door closed. You don't have Belhaven Recovery's accounts. No, you don't even have evidence. Pike receives money from them. No. Daniel stared at her. Then what was that? A question. You didn't ask one. I didn't need to. Daniel understood a moment later. You wanted to see who reacted. Yes. And Mercer did. More importantly, Pike asked what I had been told. Daniel sat back. That still isn't evidence. I know. Within 20 minutes of leaving the meeting, Mercer called Belhaven Recovery Services from his department phone. The call lasted less than 3 minutes. Soon afterward, Belhaven Recovery's owner called a municipal finance employee. That employee made another call to an administrative office connected to Mayor Thomas Bell. Daniel did not have access to the content of the calls, but he later obtained the existence and timing of the contacts through lawful records connected to his continuing inquiry. He placed the call sequence on a legal pad that evening. Maya's meeting with Pike appeared at the top. Underneath it were the 3 calls. Daniel called Robert and Denise the next morning. I need help with old municipal reports, he told them. Denise answered. How old? As many years as you can find online or through the public library. Robert asked. What are we looking for? Anything involving towing revenue, forfeiture income, enforcement performance, or payments to Belhaven Recovery. They met at Daniel's office later that day. Denise had printed several council packets. Robert brought a folder of older budget summaries and a handwritten list of references from county records. Daniel spread them across the conference table. One municipal report listed Belhaven Recovery under contracted transportation services. Another showed a significant increase in towing-related collections over several years. A third report used a category Daniel had not seen before. Enforcement revenue performance. Robert pointed at the page. That sounds like a sales report. Daniel looked at the distribution list. Mayor Thomas Bell's office received the report directly. Denise read the numbers twice. So, the mayor saw how much money enforcement was producing. He received the reports, Daniel said. That doesn't prove he ordered anything illegal, but he can't say he never knew the money existed. No. Daniel marked the page. Robert looked at the growing stack of documents. They really wrote all of this down? Not the crime, Daniel said. Just the system around it. Denise pushed another towing invoice toward him. You spend your whole life being told to keep receipts. Turns out the people in charge should have done the same. Daniel gave a brief smile and added the invoice to the file. At Belhaven Police Headquarters, Pike stood in Mercer's office, with the black government device sealed inside a clear evidence bag on the desk. Mercer had already reviewed the available reports twice. She won't identify the issuing agency, he said. Pike looked at the device. Then stop treating that as her advantage. Mercer waited. Pike continued. If she can't establish lawful possession, make the device part of the case. You want another charge? I want a legal reason to force her to explain it. Mercer considered the idea. Pike looked toward the sealed device again. She wants us worried about what it means. He turned to Mercer. Let's make her worry about why she has it. The new filing reached Daniel Cross shortly after noon. He read the first page twice, then drove directly to the detention facility where Maya was being held under Belhaven's pending allegations. When he entered the attorney consultation room, he carried only the filing and a yellow legal pad. Maya noticed his expression before he sat down. They changed the theory, she said. Daniel placed the document in front of her. They added one. Maya read the heading carefully. Belhaven now alleged that she had possessed restricted federal property without establishing lawful authorization. The filing avoided claiming the black device had been stolen. Instead, it argued that her refusal to identify the issuing agency created sufficient grounds to investigate whether she had obtained it unlawfully. Daniel waited until she finished. They found the only thing you still refuse to explain and turned it into another charge. It isn't a charge yet. It's a formal criminal allegation supporting continued detention. That distinction is getting smaller. Maya read the second page. Chief Pike's statement claimed that Belhaven had made repeated efforts to verify the device through Maya and her attorney, but had received no identifying information about its origin. Daniel leaned forward. I need to know who issued it. Maya set the document down. You need to know whether it was lawfully issued. I already asked you that, and I answered. You said yes. That answer hasn't changed. Daniel kept his voice controlled. Maya, I cannot walk into court and ask a judge to accept your word while the other side is holding restricted government property with your fingerprints on it. You won't have to. Then give me something I can use. Not through Belhaven. Daniel sat back. You think Pike will destroy records if you identify the agency? I think he has already shown us what he does when he feels threatened. That's not proof he'll destroy evidence. No. It's the reason I won't warn him before independent preservation exists. Daniel looked at the filing again. You understand what they're doing, don't you? Yes. They're forcing a choice. Identify yourself and remove the device from the case, or stay silent and let them treat possession of it as suspicious. Maya nodded. And you're still choosing silence. For now. Daniel rubbed one hand across his jaw. You are making my job much harder. I know. That isn't an apology. It wasn't meant to be. He looked at her for several seconds. Who exactly are you afraid they'll warn? Maya did not answer. Pike? Silence. Mercer? Maya remained still. Whitmore? Her expression did not change. Daniel closed the filing. Fine. Then tell me this. Is the device connected to why you were traveling through Belhaven? No. Were you conducting an investigation here when Vickers stopped you? No. Were you sent here because of Pike, Belhaven recovery, or the mayor? No. Daniel studied her. Those answers, I can use. They're true. That helps. He wrote them down. Maya looked toward the document again. What exactly does Pike say I did with the device? He says you concealed it inside a handbag, refused to identify the issuing authority, warned officers not to activate it, and obstructed efforts to verify it. Concealed? That's his word. It was inside my handbag. I noticed. And the officers found it only because Vickers tore the lining. Yes. Then the record should use the actual sequence. Daniel nodded. That part is easier to challenge. Maya looked toward the observation window in the door, then back at him. They want the device to become the center of the case, because the cache is becoming dangerous for them. You think they know the chain of custody problem has been found. I think Mercer knows Noah accessed the evidence system. I think Pike knows you're looking at Belhaven recovery. Now they need a new reason to keep pressure on me. Daniel tapped the filing, and this gives them one. For a while, he looked at her. You say that like you're waiting for something. Maya did not answer immediately. For the first time since the roadside stop, she allowed herself to think about how quickly she could end this part of the problem. I could establish possession today. The thought lasted only a moment. Then she considered what would happen next. Pike would know exactly how serious the situation might become. Mercer would know which records mattered. Whitmore would have time to coordinate his explanation. Anyone connected to the money could begin moving documents before independent preservation reached them. Maya returned her attention to Daniel. They're still making choices. Daniel understood the implication. And you're letting them. I'm letting them decide what they're willing to put in writing. That can become expensive. It already has. Daniel looked at the torn handbag property receipt included in Belhaven's filing. Most defendants spend their time trying to make the accusations smaller. I'm trying to make the record accurate. You really don't think like a defendant. Maya gave him a direct look. Then don't defend me like one. Daniel almost replied, but stopped. Instead, he opened his legal pad to a fresh page. All right. We attack the sequence. They searched the bag before they knew about the device. The device did not justify the original detention. Their own officers gave conflicting reasons for the stop. The cache allegation is vulnerable, and they still haven't identified a statute that makes possession of the device unlawful. Good, but sooner or later, someone with proper authority is going to require proof that you had a right to possess it. I know, and when that happens, Maya answered calmly, I'll provide it to the proper record. Daniel closed the pad. Before Pike gets advance notice? Yes. He stood. Then I need to make sure that record exists before Belhaven gets another chance to define it. After Daniel left, Maya was returned to the holding area. Across town, Pike read the revised filing in Mercer's office while the black device remained sealed on the desk. She still won't identify the agency? Pike asked. Mercer shook his head. Pike looked at the device. Then keep pressing. Mercer studied him. What if she really is authorized to have it? Pike's answer came without hesitation. Then she'll eventually have to prove it. He pushed the filing back across the desk. And when she does, I want to know who she is before anyone else does. Noah waited until the afternoon shift change before returning to the body camera administration terminal. He had already learned that Mercer was monitoring his access to the evidence system, so he did not search for Maya's name or Vickers's case number. Instead, he opened the department's equipment maintenance records. Belhaven's body cameras were supplied by an outside contractor that handled storage verification, software updates, and file integrity checks. The department could remove a recording from its normal viewing system, but each upload created a digital checksum that was transmitted automatically to the contractor. Noah opened the technical guide. A deleted local file could disappear from Belhaven's interface without erasing the contractor's record that the file had existed. In some cases, the original upload remained recoverable. Noah stared at the screen. Mercer had ordered cameras turned off on the roadside. Later, portions of the available recordings had been missing. If even one camera had continued recording long enough to upload before someone altered the local file, the contractor might still have it. Noah wrote down only the contractor account identification and the equipment serial numbers associated with the 3 officers. He did not print the page. He did not email Daniel. Mercer had already used one information leak to trace him. This time, Noah chose a different route. That evening, Robert Carter was leaving a grocery store when Noah approached him near the cart return. "Mr. Carter?" Robert stopped. "Do I know you?" "No. My name is Noah Ellis." Recognition appeared immediately. Robert's expression hardened. "You're with Belhaven Police." "Yes. If this is about my wife or our lawyer, you need to speak to Mr. Cross. It's about the Williams case." Robert started to walk away. Noah did not follow him. "There may be an outside copy of the roadside video." Robert stopped. Noah handed him a folded piece of paper. "I need you to give that to Mrs. Carter. Don't call me. Don't text me." Robert looked at the paper but did not open it. "Why my wife?" "Because Mercer already knows I talked to someone connected to Mr. Cross. And you think passing it through us changes that?" "I think it gives them one more place to look." Robert studied him. "Did you lie about Maya Williams?" Noah's face tightened. "Yes." Robert waited for an explanation. Noah gave none. "That answer should bother you," Robert said. "It does." "Good." Robert put the paper in his jacket pocket and walked away. Denise delivered it to Daniel the following morning. Daniel read the contractor identification, then looked at her. "Where did you get this?" "Robert." "And where did Robert get it?" "He said that question was exactly why I was supposed to bring it, instead of calling you." Daniel understood. He did not contact the contractor informally. He prepared a preservation request through the appropriate legal process and followed it with a formal demand for records connected to the identified body camera units. Several days passed before the response arrived. The contractor confirmed that roadside files associated with the Belhaven stop had generated remote integrity records. More importantly, one recording still had a recoverable upload that no longer appeared in Belhaven's active system. Daniel watched the restored video alone first. Then he stopped it and called for Maya. When they met later that day, he placed a laptop on the consultation room table. "I think you were right about letting them keep making choices." Maya looked at the screen. "What did you find?" Daniel pressed play. The video began near the point when Vickers held Maya's torn handbag over the hood. The black device fell out. Noah approached. Mercer's reaction was clear. Then his voice could be heard. "Turn them off." The image shifted when the officer wearing the camera moved, but the recording did not end immediately. The audio continued. Vickers asked, "What do we do with her?" Mercer answered, "We need leverage before she makes a call." Daniel let the recording continue. The camera briefly captured Vickers at the patrol cruiser. He opened the trunk. He removed a sealed envelope. A later angle showed him moving toward Maya's SUV. Then the image went dark for several seconds. When it returned, Vickers was standing at the rear of the SUV. His voice was louder. "Sergeant, you need to see this." The cash envelope appeared in his hand. Maya watched without speaking. Daniel continued the video. Mercer examined the envelope and moved close to Vickers. His voice was quieter but still audible. "Now we have leverage." Daniel stopped the recording. "That destroys the bribery allegation. It does more than that. It proves the cash was planted. Yes. Daniel leaned forward. Then we use it now. Maya shook her head. Not publicly. He stared at her. Maya, this can end the most serious part of their case. It can end Vickers's part. That matters. It does. But if Pike believes the entire problem can be contained by sacrificing one officer, what will he do? Daniel understood the question. He'll give us Vickers and protect everyone above him. Daniel looked back at the frozen image on the screen. You want Pike to think the video is still uncertain. I want him to keep making decisions. You're asking me to hold evidence that clears you. I'm asking you to preserve it properly and use it when it protects more than just me. Daniel was silent for several seconds. You understand how unusual that is? Yes. Most clients would want this filed before I finished watching it. I'm not asking you to hide evidence from the court. I'm asking you not to announce our entire strategy to Belhaven before we have to. Daniel closed the laptop. That distinction matters. I know. Later, Noah met Daniel in the same diner where they had spoken before. This time Daniel did not offer him coffee. The contractor file was recoverable. Noah nodded slowly. So now you know. I know the cash was planted. I also know you gave a false statement in that interview room. Noah looked down at the table. I did. Why? If I had contradicted Mercer completely, I would have been outside the department before I could access anything. Daniel studied him. You expect that explanation to make it acceptable? No. Maya's voice came from behind him. Noah turned. He had not known she would be part of the meeting. She remained standing beside the booth. Protecting evidence doesn't make the lie disappear, she said. Noah nodded. I know. Maya took the empty seat. Then remember that when this moves forward, you may have helped preserve the truth, but you'll still have to answer for the part you added to the lie. Noah looked at her directly for the first time since the roadside stop. I understand. Across Belhaven, Chief Pike was already receiving word that someone outside the department had begun asking technical questions about archived body camera data. He closed the message and looked at Mercer. If the video exists, we need distance from Vickers. Mercer understood immediately. Pike continued in a calm voice. One officer made bad decisions. That's survivable. Mercer began revising the department's internal narrative before Vickers understood what was happening. The first draft described the roadside search as an individual decision made by an officer who had become overly aggressive after discovering restricted government property. It stated that supervisory personnel had attempted to restore proper procedure once the situation escalated. Vickers read the draft in Mercer's office and looked up slowly. You're putting this on me. Mercer remained seated behind his desk. I'm documenting what happened. No. You're rewriting it. You conducted the search. You were standing there. You opened the vehicle. You told me to keep going. Mercer folded his hands. Do you have that instruction in writing? Vickers stared at him. Mercer continued. You claimed the marijuana odor. You handled the handbag. You removed the cash envelope. Your name is on the evidence sheet. Vickers stepped closer to the desk. Because that's how Pike wanted it done. Mercer's expression did not change. That isn't what the record says. Vickers understood then that the paperwork had never been neutral. Every questionable action carried his name more clearly than the names of the men above him. You knew this could happen. I knew you were responsible for what you signed. Vickers lowered his voice. Don't talk to me like I acted alone. I didn't say you did. You're about to. Mercer picked up the revised report. The department needs an accurate accounting of individual conduct. Vickers gave a short, bitter laugh. Individual conduct. Mercer said nothing. Vickers left the office without signing the revised statement. Noah saw him cross the hallway and enter the locker area. He waited several minutes before following. Vickers was standing beside an open locker, staring at nothing. Noah stopped near the doorway. You okay? Vickers turned. Did Mercer send you? No. Pike? No. Vickers shut the locker. Then what do you want? Noah hesitated. I heard they're reviewing the Williams stop. They're reviewing me. Noah said nothing. Vickers stepped closer. You think this department runs because one patrol officer makes decisions on the shoulder of a highway? No. Good. At least you're not stupid. He lowered his voice. There are records Mercer doesn't want anyone seeing. Noah watched him carefully. What records? Vickers looked toward the hallway before answering. The real ledger. Noah felt his attention sharpen, but he kept his face neutral. You mean the blue one? Vickers frowned. Blue? Noah immediately realized the mistake. Vickers studied him. Who told you that? No one. That's not an answer. Noah said nothing. Vickers moved closer, then stopped. The real ledger isn't blue. Noah kept his voice steady. Where is it? Vickers shook his head. Not with Pike. What does it contain? Enough. Enough for what? Enough that Pike can't pretend this all started with me. Noah understood what Vickers was doing. This was not confession. It was insurance. You kept a copy. Vickers's silence confirmed it. Noah asked, why? Because I know the people I work for. That evening, Daniel Cross received a message through an attorney who represented Vickers in an unrelated employment matter. The message was cautious. Vickers was willing to discuss records connected to Belhaven's seizure system, but only if his cooperation was conveyed to an independent authority. Daniel read the message twice before showing Maya. He wants protection. He wants leverage, Maya said. Same difference from his point of view. Did anyone promise him immunity? No. Good. Daniel sat across from her. If he actually has the ledger, this could connect the patrol stops to the money. It could also be another trap. You still think Mercer is feeding false information? I think everyone in Belhaven is starting to protect himself. Daniel looked at the message again. That makes people unpredictable. It also makes them careless. Daniel arranged a meeting through counsel. He made the terms clear before Vickers arrived. No immunity. No sentencing promise. No guarantee about charges. Vickers sat across the conference table with his attorney beside him. What do I get? Daniel answered. Your cooperation can be documented and conveyed to the proper independent authorities. That is all I can promise. Vickers looked toward Maya. You're the reason all of this is happening. Maya remained calm. No, I'm the reason you noticed it was happening. His expression hardened. You think you're better than everyone in that department? I think you planted $18,000 in my vehicle. Vickers looked away. Daniel interrupted. We're here for the ledger. Vickers leaned back. If I give it to you, Pike says I stole department records. If you don't give it to us, Pike is preparing to say you acted alone. That struck its target. Vickers turned toward Daniel. You know that? We know the department is revising its account. Vickers's jaw tightened. He told us to choose people who wouldn't come back. Daniel did not react. Who is he? Pike. Directly? Sometimes through Mercer. Did he use those exact words? Vickers hesitated. Not every time. Then don't improve the quote. Tell me what was actually said. Vickers looked irritated. You people want everything exact. Maya answered before Daniel could. Yes. The room went quiet. Vickers looked at her, then back at Daniel. He called it return risk. Out-of-state drivers. Rental cars. People who would have to miss work, pay for a hotel, hire local counsel. The more inconvenient it was to fight, the better. Was that written down? Vickers nodded. Where? In the ledger. Daniel asked. And you have a copy? Yes. Where is it? Vickers looked at Maya. You really don't know who you're dealing with. Maya held his gaze. That's why we need the record. Vickers finally reached into the document case beside his chair and removed a sealed folder. He placed it on the table but kept one hand on it. If Pike knows I gave you this, he'll bury me. Daniel looked at him. Travis. He already started. Vickers slowly removed his hand. Daniel opened the folder. The first page contained rows of vehicle information, seizure amounts, towing charges, officer credits, and municipal allocations. At the far right was a column labeled Return, Risk. Maya leaned closer. The system Belhaven had denied was now arranged in neat columns. Daniel spent most of the night reviewing the ledger with Maya and comparing it against the records Robert and Denise had collected. The document was not dramatic. There were no written instructions to plant evidence, no admissions of illegal searches, and no list labeled corruption. What it contained was more useful. Each entry identified a vehicle, the state of registration, the estimated value of property discovered, the amount seized, towing charges, the officer involved, and the portion credited to municipal revenue. The final column was labeled Return Risk. Daniel pointed to several entries. Local address, high risk. Neighboring county, medium risk. Out of state, low risk. Maya studied the pattern. They were estimating whether the owner would come back to challenge the seizure. That's what it looks like. Don't write looks like. Prove how they used the category. Daniel nodded. We'll match the entries against contested cases. He turned another page. Maya saw her own name. Williams. Maya. Rental SUV. Out-of-state registration. Low return risk. Daniel stopped writing. They classified you before the stop was finished. Maya read the entry again. Or shortly afterward. You're giving them a generous possibility. I'm giving us the version we can prove. Daniel continued through the ledger until another pair of names appeared. Robert Carter, Denise Carter. Their entry showed the amount taken, the towing charges, and the same designation. Low return risk. Daniel called them the following morning. Robert and Denise arrived at his office carrying their original file. Daniel placed a copy of the ledger entry on the conference table, without explaining it first. Denise read their names, and then the final column. What does return risk mean? Daniel answered carefully. We believe it was Belhaven's estimate of how likely someone was to come back and fight the seizure. Robert looked at him. They wrote that about us? It appears so. Robert read the entry again. They knew we lived far enough away that every court date would cost us another day. Denise kept her attention on the page. They knew because we told them where we lived. Daniel nodded. For several seconds, no one spoke. Robert finally pushed the document back. So, what happens now? We ask to reopen your matter and preserve every related record. And they just agree? No. Denise gave a tired smile. At least that part sounds familiar. Daniel filed the request that afternoon. Belhaven responded faster than expected. Judge Whitmore denied immediate reopening of the Carter matter and signed an order restricting access to several categories of municipal seizure records, pending review of what he called improper dissemination of internal law enforcement material. Daniel read the order in his office and called Maya. They're trying to seal the records around the ledger. Can Whitmore reach the copy Vickers already gave you? No. But he can make discovery harder and threaten anyone who uses material he claims was improperly obtained. Is he doing that? Not yet. The answer changed before the end of the day. Daniel received formal notice that municipal council intended to seek sanctions if he continued using what Belhaven described as unlawfully disclosed police records. At the same time, Noah Ellis was suspended from duty, pending an internal investigation into unauthorized system access. The department took his credentials and removed his access to police databases. Noah called Daniel from a personal phone. They shut me out. Did they question you? Mercer asked whether I copied evidence records. What did you say? That I wanted counsel before answering. Good. Noah was silent. Then he asked, does this mean they know about the video? They know enough to be worried. What about the ledger? Don't discuss it on the phone. Noah understood. Maya's situation remained unresolved. The planted cash allegation had not been withdrawn, and Belhaven continued pressing the claim involving unauthorized possession of restricted federal property. Daniel succeeded in getting several items returned after Belhaven photographed and documented them as part of its case. Among them was Maya's handbag. A local repair shop had closed the torn inner seam with a straight line of temporary stitching at Daniel's request. The damage was still visible. When he handed the bag to Maya, she examined the repair once and set it beside her chair. You could replace it, Daniel said. That isn't necessary. He nodded toward the seam. They did a poor job of making this disappear too. Maya looked at him. Don't give the bag more meaning than it has. Daniel almost smiled. Understood. The following morning, Chief Pike held a press conference outside the Belhaven Municipal Building. He described the controversy as an isolated matter involving questions about one patrol officer's conduct. The Belhaven Police Department remains committed to lawful enforcement and full accountability, Pike told reporters. If Officer Vickers departed from department policy, that conduct will be addressed appropriately. It would be irresponsible to use one disputed encounter to attack an entire public institution. Mercer's name was not mentioned. Neither was Belhaven Recovery. Mayor Bell released a short statement supporting an independent review while expressing confidence in the municipality's leadership. Daniel watched the coverage with Maya. They're giving up Vickers. They were always going to if necessary. And Mercer? Still useful to Pike. Daniel muted the television. They've got Whitmore restricting records. Noah suspended. The Carters denied. And sanctions hanging over my office. Publicly, Pike has reduced everything to one bad officer. Maya picked up the repaired handbag and ran one finger along the new stitching. He hasn't reduced the record. That afternoon, Pike requested a private meeting with Maya and Daniel present. He arrived carrying no documents. For once, he did not offer coffee. "You've created a great deal of disruption in this town," he said. Maya looked at him. "I was stopped by your officer, and now confidential records are being circulated. Employees are leaking internal information, and municipal operations are being challenged based on documents that may have been improperly obtained," Daniel said. "Be careful where you take that accusation." Pike ignored him. He looked directly at Maya. "Whitmore has limited access to the records. Ellis has been suspended. The Carter request was denied. Vickers will answer for whatever individual misconduct can actually be proven." Maya waited. Pike leaned back. "Whatever game you thought you were playing, you lost. Chief, you still think I'm the game?" His expression changed. "Then what is?" Maya placed the repaired handbag beside her chair. "The record." The hearing drew more attention than Daniel expected. By the time Maya entered the Belhaven courthouse, reporters had gathered near the entrance. Municipal employees filled several benches, and a few local residents stood along the back wall, waiting to see why a dispute that had begun with a traffic stop had reached Judge Arthur Whitmore's courtroom. Robert and Denise Carter sat together near the aisle. Noah Ellis occupied a separate bench after receiving a subpoena. His department credentials were gone, and he wore a plain jacket instead of a uniform. Chief Raymond Pike sat beside Belhaven's municipal attorney. Mercer was 2 seats behind him. Vickers arrived with his own lawyer and made no attempt to sit near the department. That separation did not escape Maya. Daniel opened his file as the clerk called the matter. Whitmore entered and took his seat. His first several questions concerned procedure, but Maya could see where he intended to go. He moved past the disputed cash, the traffic stop, and the conflicting police statements until he reached the black government device. Whitmore looked down from the bench. "Miss Williams, this court has repeatedly requested that you establish lawful possession of the restricted federal property recovered from your handbag." Maya stood beside Daniel. "That is correct, Your Honor. You have declined to identify the issuing authority. I declined to provide restricted information through a process I did not believe was authorized to receive it." Whitmore's expression hardened. "This court is authorized to determine whether evidence in a criminal matter is lawfully possessed." Daniel stood. "Your Honor, we have prepared sealed documentation addressing that issue." Whitmore looked toward him. "Then perhaps we can finally stop treating a straightforward question like a national secret." Daniel did not respond to the remark. He removed a sealed packet from his file and handed it to the clerk. The clerk carried it to the bench. Whitmore broke the seal and began reading. For the first time that morning, his expression changed. He stopped halfway through the first page. Then, he looked directly at Maya. Chief Pike noticed. Mercer did too. Whitmore read the document again before asking, "Miss Williams, do you have your government credentials with you?" "Yes, Your Honor." Daniel passed Maya a dark credential case that had been secured separately through the proper legal channel before the hearing. Maya opened it. The courtroom became completely quiet. The identification carried the seal of the United States Department of Justice. Beneath Maya's name was her title, Deputy Attorney General of the United States. Pike did not move. Mercer lowered his eyes. Noah stared at Maya from across the room. Vickers whispered something to his attorney, who immediately told him to stop talking. Whitmore looked at the credential, then at the sealed documentation in front of him. "You are the Deputy Attorney General?" "Yes, Your Honor." Daniel watched Pike closely. The chief's face had lost the confidence he had carried into the courtroom. Maya continued before anyone else could speak. The device recovered from my handbag was lawfully issued to me for authorized government use. Pike leaned toward his attorney, then suddenly stood. Your Honor, this changes everything. Daniel looked at him. It changes one fact. Pike ignored him. If Miss Williams holds that position, then this entire matter raises a serious question of federal retaliation against Belhaven. We have been dealing with one of the highest-ranking officials in the Justice Department without disclosure, while outside parties have obtained departmental records and challenged municipal operations. Maya remained standing. Daniel opened another section of his file. We expected that argument. Pike turned toward him. Daniel continued. Immediately after Miss Williams obtained access to a secure and appropriate reporting channel, she disclosed the roadside incident through federal ethics and security procedures. She then removed herself from any prosecutorial decision involving the conduct directed at her. Whitmore looked toward Daniel. You have documentation? Yes. Another sealed filing went to the clerk. Daniel continued while Whitmore reviewed it. Miss Williams did not order an investigation of Belhaven. She did not direct subpoenas, evidence preservation, interviews, financial review, or any prosecutorial decision concerning this matter. Independent officials were notified specifically to prevent the conflict Chief Pike is now suggesting. Pike's attorney whispered something to him. This time Pike sat down. Maya looked toward the bench. My title explains why I lawfully possessed the device. She paused. It does not explain why Officer Vickers placed $18,000 into my vehicle. Vickers looked sharply toward her. His attorney touched his arm and told him quietly to remain still. Whitmore adjusted the documents on his desk. The allegation that the money was planted remains disputed. Daniel stood. Not for much longer. He connected his laptop to the courtroom display. A single evidence number appeared on the screen. Whitmore frowned. What am I looking at? The seal number on the cash envelope. Daniel turned toward Vickers. Officer Vickers read this number aloud during the roadside detention. His body camera recorded it. Mercer's posture changed. Pike looked back at him. Daniel continued. That detail matters because the original Belhaven evidence log records the same envelope being removed from departmental custody after Miss Williams's traffic stop had already begun. Whitmore looked toward Pike's table. The municipal attorney stood. Your Honor, we object to counsel characterizing disputed internal records without foundation. Daniel nodded. Then let's establish the foundation. He displayed a copy of Mercer's signed statement. Maya recognized it immediately. Daniel read the relevant language. Sergeant Mercer certified that the $18,000 remained in authorized Belhaven evidence control until its recovery from Miss Williams's SUV, and that no unauthorized removal occurred before the roadside search. Mercer looked at Pike. Daniel changed the display. The evidence system timestamp appeared beside the seal number. The time of Vickers's checkout came after the traffic stop had started. No one spoke for several seconds. Daniel looked toward Mercer. Either the evidence system is false, Sergeant Mercer's signed statement is false, or the money could not have been in Maya Williams' vehicle before Officer Vickers stopped her. Whitmore leaned forward. Pike's attorney requested a recess. Daniel shook his head. We haven't reached the body camera recording yet. That was the first moment Pike looked genuinely uncertain. Maya watched him carefully. The title on her credential had changed the room, but it had not changed the evidence. That was exactly as she intended. Daniel closed the document, showing her federal position, and returned to the evidence log. Your Honor, Miss Williams's identity is no longer in dispute. Now we can return to the question Belhaven has avoided since the first day. Whitmore said nothing. Daniel looked toward the screen. How did police evidence get inside her vehicle? Daniel did not play the body camera recording immediately. He first called the Belhaven evidence clerk, whose authentication had already been submitted through the independent preservation process. The clerk confirmed the seal number, the original evidence entry, and the time the envelope had been removed from storage. Daniel kept his questions narrow. Who checked out the envelope? Officer Travis Vickers. At what time? The clerk gave the timestamp. And had Miss Williams already been stopped by then? Yes. The answer remained in the courtroom without explanation. Daniel turned toward Mercer. Sergeant, you signed a statement saying the envelope had remained in authorized Belhaven custody until it was found in Miss Williams's SUV. Mercer looked toward Pike's attorney before answering. Yes. Was that statement accurate? I believed it was accurate when I signed it. Did you check the electronic custody log first? Mercer hesitated. No. Did Chief Pike ask you to verify it? No. So you certified the custody of $18,000 without checking the system that recorded its custody. Mercer's attorney rose. Your Honor, Sergeant Mercer is not the defendant in this proceeding. Daniel looked toward Whitmore. That is becoming part of the problem. Whitmore frowned. Counselor, stay within the issue before the court. Daniel nodded. Then let's stay with the roadside evidence. He opened the recovered body camera file. The municipal attorney objected immediately. We challenge authentication and chain of preservation. Daniel was ready. The recording was recovered from the department's contracted storage provider. The contractor preserved its upload record, checksum, device identification, and original file metadata. We have the certification. Whitmore reviewed the document Daniel handed to the clerk. For several moments, the courtroom was silent. Then he said, I'll allow it for purposes of this hearing. Daniel pressed play. The first image showed the hood of Maya's SUV. Vickers held the torn handbag. The black device fell onto the metal. Noah stepped forward. Mercer's voice followed. Turn them off. The video shifted as Noah moved. The audio continued. Vickers asked, What do we do with her? Mercer answered, We need leverage before she makes a call. Pike stopped taking notes. On the screen, Vickers walked toward the patrol cruiser. He opened the trunk and removed the sealed envelope. The camera angle changed, but the envelope remained visible long enough to identify it. Then part of the recording darkened. When the image returned, Vickers was standing behind Maya's SUV. Sergeant, you need to see this. A few moments later, Mercer's voice was heard clearly. Now we have leverage. Daniel stopped the recording. Nobody in the courtroom moved for several seconds. Vickers's lawyer leaned close to him and whispered something. The municipal attorney rose again. The video does not establish what happened during the period when the image was obscured. Daniel nodded. Correct. The attorney appeared surprised. Daniel continued. That is why we also have the evidence, log, the seal number, Officer Vickers's recorded movements, and Sergeant Mercer's signed custody statement. He displayed the timeline. Each fact occupied one line. The stop began. Vickers checked out the cash. The handbag was torn. The government device appeared. Mercer said they needed leverage. Vickers approached the cruiser. The envelope appeared. The same envelope was later claimed to have been found inside Maya's SUV. Daniel looked toward the bench. You don't need everyone to tell the truth when their lies stop matching. Whitmore's face hardened. Counselor, argument belongs at the appropriate stage. Understood, Your Honor. Vickers suddenly leaned toward his attorney. The two exchanged several quiet sentences. Then his attorney stood. My client wishes to clarify information relevant to the authenticity of another record already provided to counsel. Pike turned sharply. Mercer looked at Vickers. Whitmore asked, What record? Daniel answered, The master seizure ledger. The municipal attorney objected. Vickers' lawyer continued. My client is prepared to authenticate the copy voluntarily produced through counsel. He is not requesting immunity through this court. Whitmore looked toward Vickers. Officer Vickers, do you understand that your statements may expose you to additional legal consequences? Vickers swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. Proceed carefully. Daniel approached. Did you provide my office with a copy of a Bellhaven seizure ledger? Yes. Was it created as part of department operations? Yes. Did you use it? Yes. What was the purpose of the column labeled return risk? Vickers glanced toward Pike. Pike did not look at him. Vickers turned back toward Daniel. It estimated how likely someone was to come back and challenge a seizure, who were considered low return risk targets, mostly people from outside the area. Rental cars, out-of-state plates, people who would have to travel back for court. Why did that matter? Vickers took a breath. Because most of them wouldn't fight over a few $1,000s if the cost of fighting was high enough. Robert Carter lowered his eyes. Denise reached for his hand. Daniel displayed 2 ledger entries. The first belonged to Maya, low return risk. The second showed Robert and Denise Carter, low return risk. Denise stared at the screen. Robert said nothing. Daniel turned toward Vickers. Who gave officers that strategy? Vickers hesitated. Chief Pike called it return risk. Pike's attorney stood immediately. Objection. Foundation. Daniel looked at Vickers. Did Chief Pike personally discuss return risk with you? Yes. Did Sergeant Mercer? Raider. Yes. Mercer closed his eyes briefly. Whitmore leaned back. The hearing had moved far beyond whether Maya had lawfully possessed a black government device. Daniel returned to his table. Maya spoke quietly enough that only he could hear. Don't rush. He nodded. She was right. Belhaven had spent years depending on people giving up before the paperwork could be connected. Now the connections were appearing one at a time. Whitmore called for a short recess. Before leaving the bench, he warned all parties not to remove, alter, destroy, or transfer any record connected to the hearing. For the first time, the order protecting Belhaven's paperwork was no longer controlled entirely by Belhaven. As people began standing, Robert remained seated. He looked at his name on the frozen courtroom display. Then he looked at Denise. They knew. Denise nodded. Yes. Robert looked toward Pike, Mercer, and Vickers. They actually wrote down why they chose us. Daniel heard him. He closed his file. The question was no longer whether Maya Williams had been framed. The question was how many people had helped build a system designed to make framing someone profitable. The recess did not calm anyone on Pike's side of the courtroom. Mercer followed the chief into a private conference room and closed the door behind them. Pike's municipal attorney had already spread several folders across the table. We need to separate the department from Vickers immediately, Pike said. Mercer looked at him. He just authenticated the ledger, which makes him an admitted participant. He also named both of us. Pike turned toward the attorney. Can we characterize Mercer as acting outside administrative policy? Mercer stared at him. The attorney did not answer immediately. That was enough. You're putting this on me too, Mercer said. Pike lowered his voice. Dean, this is about containing exposure. No, it's about deciding who gets sacrificed first. You approved reports. Reports you demanded. Can you prove that? Mercer did not answer. Pike continued. Vickers planted the cash. His credentials removed it from evidence. His hands put it in the vehicle. If there were reporting failures above him, those can be addressed separately. Mercer understood exactly what Pike meant. The department would survive. Pike would claim administrative ignorance, and everyone whose signature appeared closer to the misconduct would carry the criminal risk. Mercer left the room without another word. Before the hearing resumed, he asked his attorney for a private conversation. I want independent counsel to know I'm prepared to cooperate. His attorney studied him. That is not a small decision. Neither is being blamed for a system I didn't build. You participated in it. Mercer looked toward the closed courtroom doors. I know. Then understand this clearly. Cooperation can affect what happens to you. It does not erase what you did. I'm not asking for erasure. Within days, Mercer began providing records through counsel. He identified meeting notes, internal reporting codes, communications with Belhaven Recovery Services, and the method Pike used to discuss seizure revenue without putting direct instructions into routine patrol documents. One phrase appeared repeatedly in meeting summaries: low return exposure. Daniel placed the documents beside Vickers's ledger. The language was different. The meaning was not. Independent investigators also reviewed the phone activity that followed Maya's earlier mention of Belhaven Recovery. The timing now mattered. Maya had told Pike that Belhaven Recovery might be the least of his problems. Less than half an hour later, Mercer called the towing company. The towing company's owner then called a municipal finance employee. That employee contacted an administrative number assigned to Mayor Thomas Bell's office. Soon afterward, several electronic records were accessed, and money moved between accounts connected to municipal vendors. Daniel showed Maya the sequence. You didn't know those calls would happen. No. You didn't even know Pike had a direct financial connection yet. No. Daniel tapped the page. You gave him a name and watched who he called. I gave him a reason to worry, and he created the rest. Maya studied the timeline. His reaction is evidence only because other records support what happened afterward. Keep the distinction clear. Daniel nodded. You never let me enjoy anything. It's not our job to enjoy it. Financial investigators traced payments involving Belhaven Recovery. The company was formerly owned by Harold Pike, Chief Pike's brother, but money moved through a limited liability company that paid consulting and property expenses, benefiting accounts associated with Raymond Pike. The structure was complicated enough to hide ordinary review. It was not complicated enough to survive subpoenas. Mayor Bell issued a statement saying he had never directed police officers to increase seizures and had no knowledge of improper conduct. Daniel read the statement at Robert and Denise's kitchen table. Robert pushed a municipal report across to him. What about these? The reports had been delivered directly to the mayor's office for years. They included monthly totals for towing revenue, seized property, administrative fees, and enforcement performance. Daniel nodded. He can argue he didn't know how the money was generated. Denise looked at the pages, but he can't say he didn't know the money was there. No. Additional financial records showed payments from municipal vendors to entities connected to political consulting work for Bell's administration. Investigators began examining whether those payments were legitimate services or part of the revenue network. Judge Whitmore faced a different problem. Independent reviewers compared the dates of seizure orders with outside payments made to a consulting company he controlled. The same pattern appeared repeatedly. A payment arrived. A seizure order followed soon afterward. In several cases, Whitmore's approval had been entered before the supporting police paperwork was complete. His attorney insisted that judicial decisions could not be treated as criminal, simply because someone disliked them. The investigators agreed. Then, they separated the judicial rulings from the financial transfers. The question was no longer whether Whitmore had made bad legal decisions. It was whether he had been paid in connection with them. Back in court, the allegations against Maya began collapsing one by one. The bribery claim failed because no recording, witness, or document showed Maya offering money or any benefit to an officer. The cash possession theory failed because the evidence log and recovered video showed that Vickers removed the envelope from police custody after the stop began. The obstruction allegation weakened when the record showed Maya had complied with identification requests, exited the vehicle when ordered, and repeatedly stated only that she did not consent to further searches. The restricted device allegation ended once the sealed federal documentation established her lawful possession. Daniel gathered the withdrawn and dismissed claims into one folder. They built 4 theories around you, he said, and none survived their own records. No. Maya looked toward Robert and Denise, who were waiting outside the courtroom. Their case matters more now. Independent counsel had already filed to reopen it using the ledger, towing records, and evidence from the broader pattern. This time, Whitmore was no longer controlling the request. An outside judge granted review. Other former seizure cases followed. No one announced that Bellhaven had fallen in a single afternoon. There was no dramatic sweep through town. Instead, subpoenas arrived. Accounts were frozen. Officials recused themselves. Attorneys negotiated cooperation agreements. Investigators collected financial records. The state began reviewing Bellhaven's seizure procedures, and independent prosecutors evaluated criminal charges. Daniel stood with Maya outside the courthouse after another long day. They spent years making people prove the town was lying. Maya looked at the folders in his hand. Now the town has to explain its own records. Across Bellhaven, the system was still standing, but for the first time, the people inside it were no longer protecting the same story. Several months later, Bellhaven no longer controlled the investigation that had begun on County Route 17. Independent prosecutors handled the criminal cases, state auditors reviewed municipal accounts, and outside counsel managed the growing number of claims from people whose property had been seized. Travis Vickers entered a cooperation agreement that required him to provide complete records and truthful testimony about the seizure system. His cooperation was considered when prosecutors evaluated his case, but it did not remove his responsibility for planting the cash in Maya's SUV, submitting false information, and participating in the larger conspiracy. Dean Mercer also cooperated. He provided meeting notes, internal communications, and explanations of the reporting system Pike had used to keep direct instructions out of ordinary patrol records. Mercer still faced consequences for false reports, evidence, manipulation, and obstruction. Chief Raymond Pike lost control of the Bellhaven Police Department before his criminal case was resolved. Financial records linked him to Belhaven Recovery Services through payments, related companies, and expenses that could no longer be explained as ordinary family business. Judge Arthur Whitmore was removed from matters connected to the investigation, while independent authorities examined the relationship between his financial interests and seizure orders he had approved. Mayor Thomas Bell continued to insist that he had never ordered officers to target travelers, but the monthly reports sent to his office showed that his administration had tracked seizure revenue and enforcement performance for years. Belhaven's old explanation had been simple. No one person knew enough to be responsible. The records showed otherwise. One afternoon, Daniel Cross arrived at Robert and Denise Carter's house, carrying a certified envelope. Denise cleared a space on the kitchen table while Robert poured coffee. Daniel sat down and placed the envelope between them. The independent review is complete. Robert did not reach for it. What does that mean? Daniel opened the envelope and removed several documents. The seizure in your case has been formally determined to be improper. The order that allowed Belhaven to keep your money has been vacated. Denise looked at him. And the money? Daniel handed her a bank notice. The restitution payment has been authorized. She read the amount once, then again. Robert leaned closer. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Finally, Robert sat back. That's really ours? Yes. All of it? The amount approved under the restitution order, including the portion Belhaven retained, and the additional amount established through the review. Denise placed the notice carefully on the table. Robert looked toward Daniel. I thought I'd feel different. How? I don't know. Louder, maybe. Daniel nodded. Most legal victories are quieter than people expect. Denise touched the edge of the notice. It doesn't give back the years. No, Daniel said. It doesn't, but it says they were wrong. Yes, for Denise, that answer was enough for the moment. Other former seizure cases moved through similar reviews. Some claims failed because the evidence did not support them. Others resulted in returned property, corrected records, or financial restitution. Belhaven could no longer reject complaints simply because someone lived several states away and could not afford repeated court appearances. The old property storage building beside the police department was placed under independent administration. Months later, a new sign appeared above the entrance. Independent Legal Assistance Office. People could request seizure records, obtain referrals to counsel, challenge property holds, and file complaints without making repeated trips to Belhaven. The system that had depended on people staying away now had a process designed to let them fight from home. Noah Ellis came to see Maya before leaving Belhaven for the final time. They met in Daniel's office. Noah had already completed several interviews with investigators and accepted disciplinary consequences for the false statement he had given during Maya's detention. He stood near the conference table until Maya motioned toward a chair. I wanted to ask you something, he said. Maya waited. I lied in that room. Yes. I also preserved the evidence. Yes. Noah looked down at his hands. Does that make the lie right? No. He nodded slowly. Maya continued. Doing one right thing doesn't erase the wrong one. Noah looked at her again. Then what was the point? It gives you somewhere honest to begin. He considered that. I don't know if I'll stay in law enforcement. That decision belongs to you. You think I should? I think you should decide after you understand why you stayed silent the first time. Noah accepted the answer without asking for reassurance. When he left, Daniel watched him through the office window. He wanted you to forgive him. He wanted permission to forgive himself. Did you give it to him? No. Daniel looked at Maya. You make people work for their conclusions. They remember them longer that way. Later that afternoon, Maya returned to the rented SUV that had finally been released after the case closed. Her handbag rested on the passenger seat. The torn inner seam had been professionally repaired. The stitching was neat, but the damage was still visible if someone looked closely. Maya opened the bag and checked its contents. Her wallet, her phone, the black government security device, her credential case. Daniel stood beside the open driver's door. You could have shown them that credential on the road. Yes. You knew it would have changed the way they treated you. Yes. Then why didn't you? Maya placed the black device inside the bag and closed it. Because I wanted to know what they did when they thought nobody important was watching. Daniel looked toward the former evidence building. Adults from several counties were entering the new legal assistance office. One man carried a folder under his arm. A woman spoke with a staff member near the entrance. No one needed to know anyone powerful to walk through the door. Daniel looked back at Maya. And now everybody is. She got into the SUV. There was no motorcade waiting for her and no group of reporters outside the parking lot. Maya started the engine, pulled onto the road, and drove at the posted speed. Belhaven had built its system around a simple calculation. Officials selected people from outside the area, made the legal process expensive, and expected most of them to decide that leaving was easier than fighting. For years, that calculation worked. Vickers believed Maya Williams would make the same choice. His mistake was not failing to recognize her title. His mistake was believing Belhaven could control every part of the record. The department controlled reports. Whitmore controlled local orders. Pike controlled internal policy. The town tracked the money, but none of them controlled the seal number. Vickers read aloud. They did not control the contractor's preserved video, the evidence timestamp, the phone records, the financial transfers, or the ledger they had created themselves. By the time Belhaven learned that Maya Williams was the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, her title was no longer the strongest evidence against them. Belhaven had already testified against itself. The lesson from Maya Williams's story is simple. Justice should never depend on a person's title, influence, or ability to fight back. Abuse of power often survives because people believe the system is too difficult, too expensive, or too powerful to challenge. But careful records, patience, courage, and the decision to keep asking the right questions can expose even a system that has protected itself for years. Real accountability begins when the truth matters just as much for an ordinary traveler as it does for someone powerful. Thank you sincerely for staying with us and listening all the way to the end of this story. Your time and attention mean a great deal to us. We would also love to hear your thoughts. Did the pacing keep you engaged? Were the characters and legal twists easy to follow? Was there any part of the storytelling you would like us to improve, make clearer, or tell differently in future episodes? Please share your feedback in the comments. And if you have a meaningful, unusual, or powerful story of your own that you believe deserves to be told, we invite you to share it with the channel. Your story may inspire a future episode and help other listeners feel that their experiences, struggles, and voices still matter. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.